and in relation to Senator Morgan's supported the view by Golden Campbell, this led to the President that he suggested that perhaps the provision should be inserted under the rules of the debate in the standing orders to deal with the order of speaking. Remember this? So this is something that we have to look back at. Senator Gale remarked that all members needed to follow the rules. She suggested that it could be expanded to include other parliamentary sources. Okay. All right, so those are the minutes. Do I have your agreement? Moved by Senator Morgan, seconded by Senator Gale. Thank you very much. So as far as matters are arising concerned, Ms. Jimenez, you have some work for us?
Before Ms. Jimenez, on page 2, it's perhaps a typo, but the fourth line from the bottom of the first paragraph, there's, it says evidence taken before, and there's a comma. I wondered if that's a typo.
Where's that?
The fourth line from the bottom at the first paragraph. The line says evidence taken before.
Evidence taken before.
Right. There's a comma there. I don't know if it's a typo.
Oh, so you don't want the comma there.
I just wanted us to be clear.
Okay, we'll take it out. Thank you for that insightful intervention. Yes, Ms. Jimenez.
Pleasant morning, Chair. Pleasant morning, members. Yes, the document is a comparative table of reviews of the standing orders. As noted in the minutes, it was circulated last week after ample time was given for the technical team to review same. This document comprises of a number of proposed revision. So I'm not certain if it is that we'd want to go and continue with the other standing orders and come back to this document, or
I want to finish
start
this
with
document.
this document.
I want to do the document. Agreement, agreed? Yes. Just give us the background, Mr. Jimenez, and then we'll...
Okay, so the background of the preparation of this document, it started in a meeting chaired some time ago, I think earlier this year, can't remember the date right now, but we recognized in a standing orders committee meeting that there were great inconsistencies between the interpretation section of the standing orders and the body of the standing orders. Particular reference was being made to the committee section of the standing orders. So,
members, I wonder if Ms. Jimenez had made a suggestion that we continue and come back to this. What is your view?
In my mind, Chair, this is substantive in nature.
Yes.
And would have included some of the things that we would have placed in a parking lot and need to get back to.
Yes.
I believe we should deal with this on its own. Okay. So let's conclude those other matters and come back to this one. Okay. Because maybe there are some others that we might identify there that we may want to include in this.
Okay, so we had gone to 77 on the last occasion, 77 4A. We had done that, right? Okay, now members asked you just to refer to 77 4A, and remember that there was some discussion about that, but we're going to just look at it quickly. The chairman of a select committee shall prepare, and there was some discussion about it, and we decided to leave 44A alone. Some members were saying, well, it's not really the chairman who prepares it, but there was a discussion which led us to understand that what it really means is that it is being prepared for the chairman of the select committee. So you look at B, so we're going to tick that off. Look at B. The report finally to be adopted shall be such as is agreed to with amendments, if any, by all members of the committee, or failing unanimous agreement by a majority of the members. So this is the report from a joint select committee. The report to be adopted shall be such as is agreed to with amendments, if any, by all the members of the committee, or failing unanimous agreement by a majority of the committee. Is that clear? Is that clear? 4C. Any member dissenting from the report of a majority of the committee may, by leave of the committee, put in a concise written statement or of his reasons for such dissent, and such statement shall be appended to the report. Any issue? A bill reported from a select committee shall be recommitted to a committee of the whole Senate without the question being put, and shall be considered either forthwith or on a day to be appointed by the member in charge of the bill. Is that clear? Save as provided in paragraph 5 above. A report or a special report, together with a copy of the minutes of the proceedings of the select committee and a copy of the minutes of any evidence given before the committee, shall be presented to the Senate by the chairman or other members deputed by the committee, and shall without question be ordered to lie upon the table, and the report shall be ordered to be printed. No issue. The minutes of proceedings of a committee shall record the minutes of proceedings of a committee shall record the names of the members present each day of the sitting of the committee, the names of the witnesses examined. In the event of a division taking place, the question proposed, the name of the proposer, and the respective votes thereon of the members present. A copy of the draft report and any alternative draft and any amendment thereto. B. Minutes of the proceedings of the committee shall accompany the report of the committee and shall be dealt with as the Senate may direct. A report of a select committee may be taken in. The report of the select committee may be taken into consideration by the Senate on a motion, quote, that the report of the select committee on such and such be adopted. Such a motion may be moved by any member.
Realize that in B, the minutes of the proceedings of a committee shall accompany the report of the committee. You realize that we have not been doing that. All we have been doing is receiving reports. Again, this is one of the areas that would be in the standing orders that would have fallen off the standing orders. And what this also means is that it would entail all the minutes of the proceedings to be accompanying this report. So we have to decide if that is what we want. Would it be, because it's kind of substantial in nature to be making this report to be accompanying with all these minutes. And our members going to be reading the minutes.
In your experience, that's not done.
No, it's not done.
And in your experience, you don't think that that this needs to be
I
there?
think the concentration would be on the report itself.
can solve it simply by saying the minutes may, you know.
May, right, there you go.
Madam? So
Because if we make these rules, we have to abide by these rules.
in other words, if there's a specific need
not.
for the minutes, right, then you're going to
Yes,
leave it open.
any member can request it.
So you say the minutes of the proceeding will come. So it leaves the possibility of it open if there's
Right.
if there's a specific need.
If there's a specific need or request made by any member.
Okay. May. Okay. Absence of members. Any member who is prevented for whatever reason. Any member who is prevented from, okay, I understand, so prevented by illness, anything at all.
Chairman, rather. Wouldn't a tighter word be unable, or any member who is unable to attend a meeting, unable to attend a meeting of the Senate shall acquit. So you're apprising the clerk appropriately of you're not able to attend, and that is for whatever reason. The word prevented here
Suggest something.
is a negative. Or any member who is unavailable,
Not unavailable, unable to attend.
unable to attend. So we're changing from meeting to unable to attend a meeting of the Senate shall acquaint. The term prevented is, it conjures up certain things,
I think,
conjures up.
Senator,
yeah, if I may offer, I was actually going to just go to something else, but regarding the prevented, maybe it is also suggesting that there is no other obligation. It is almost like a prevention of you being here. It kind of reflects the level of commitment to being here. But I do understand that, just to say, but I understand and I agree with the not able to attend.
who is unable.
Who's
Any member
unable
who
to
is
attend.
unable to
Unable.
attend.
I was going to,
More modern kind of language.
right, in terms of the modernity too. Be in writing is in keeping with emails, etc.?
Yes.
Yep, okay, just want to make sure.
If we'll be taking that, we put in unable. We're going to say any member who is unable to attend. Unable. No, not, but what not able? Not able. No, mean the same thing as unable. I'm going to leave that up to Ms. Douglas Beckford. If without the written leave of the President given before the end of the period specified in subject paragraph, well, let me read this again. If without the written leave of the President given before the end of the period specified in B of this paragraph, any member is in any one session absent from the Senate for more than 5 consecutive sittings, and such absences occur during a period not exceeding 41 days, the member shall, subject to paragraph 3 of this order, vacate the seat under 41 of the Jamaica Constitution. Let me hear what it said then.
In the first instance, I want to seek clarity on if without the written leave of the President, given before the end of the period specified in subparagraph B of this paragraph. Now it speaks to, in the first instance, any member is in any one session absent from the Senate for more than 5 consecutive sittings. Now that joins, in my mind, the written leave from the president. So suppose you never had the written leave. No.
That's the point.
That's the point, you know. So it joins the two.
But it shouldn't, in the sense that you're not required to tell the president.
So A speaks to a period of 5 consecutive sittings. And
it is within 40.
such absences occur during a period not exceeding 41 days. We can,
For 5 sitting, but in 51 days, then it
Then
don't.
it's fine.
then it's fine.
But how could it be
Well,
fine?
that's the question. So why are they joined?
Perhaps read 3 first before
Where a member fails to obtain due leave of absence, now that's a different thing, because that is considered a permission would have been granted. And B speaks to within 10 days of after the end of the period aforesaid, satisfies the president in writing that such failure or absence was unavoidable. Again, that's a different understanding.
41 days. So if we have in 41 days, you have 5 sittings of the Senate and you are absent.
And you are up 5 consecutive.
Five-
Without permission.
Without
no.
permission.
So you
Right.
never said nothing to the
No.
president.
Without the leave. So nothing would have been communicated to the president to,
president.
say, I am ill, I am out,
Right.
whatever, seeking your leave to be absent.
It goes to the clerk.
Why you say that? Yeah.
In 78,
Because
one.
any member who is unable to attend a meeting of the Senate shall acquaint the clerk
Yeah.
as early as possible of his inability to attend.
Yes. So
Such
what?
notice to be in writing.
And
So how the president, what is the president required to do in 2? What is the scope of permissiveness that is now being extended to the president? Is it coming from the clerk saying that Senator Charles Sinclair?
why me?
I like to use you as an example. You see, we're joining all of these with a scope of committing both an obligation on the part of the clerk, an obligation on the part of the president, and a requirement from the substantive member who may be absent. The absence is, we're speaking of, is 5 consecutive sittings. Within that, one of them, the person could have said to the president, I'm going to be absent, or not.
No. It's a matter of record, you know. If you are going to be absent, who keeps the record of the Senate? The clerk.
All right.
So if a member intends or is unable to attend, then the member notifies the clerk that I'm unable to attend. And your absence is noted. Okay. If
Right.
so
That's the first instance.
yes.
That's clear.
All right. And if you intend to be absent, or you become absent for 5 consecutive days where you notify the clerk and that is recorded by the clerk, what duty you have as a member, if you find it, probably you may be out of the jurisdiction or some special circumstance, whatever the case may be, which is going to catch you in 2, you have a duty to yourself, to the Senate, to say, let me seek the leave of the president.
So this,
And
if the without the written leave of the
It's
president.
your responsibility.
No, I'm speaking about the requirement without the written leave of the president. So the president must give some level of approval in my mind.
Yes. So if you know as a member that I am going to be missing from the Senate
Yes.
for 5 consecutive meetings of the Senate, then I have a responsibility to seek a leave of the president.
But it doesn't
No,
say
no,
so.
no.
The standing orders don't say so.
It
So
says
how else would
if
you get
without the written leave. So the president has a fiduciary responsibility to provide the written leave.
Correct.
How is he going to seek the
Let me hear what Ms. Jimenez has to say.
Well, okay. So from the construction of how it is that the standing order is drafted, Standing Order 78-1 requires that there be issued a notice to the clerk signifying that you are, as a member, unable to attend the Senate for any particular meeting, because Standing Order 78-2A says in any one session. So even though it continues to say from the Senate for more than 5 consecutive sittings, it does mention if you're absent in any one session. So once you are going to be absent in any one session, you must inform the clerk via notice that you will be absent.
Sorry, where does it say in any one session?
Yes.
2A, the first line of 78-2A.
78-2A.
One moment. Are you following? Are you able to?
Yeah, yes, I'm seeing.
Okay, right. So when, if I just continue, so when it is that this notice is issued, to my mind, it is issued to the clerk because the clerk actually receives information for the benefit of the president as well as for the Senate. Right. That information must be transmitted. It's a record-keeping initiative. That information is transmitted to the president, who should review same and determine whether leave is to be granted for this member who is absent. The standing orders, however, is vague in this position because it doesn't clearly state that that is the intention. The notice, to my mind, seems to be just notifying, but Standing Order 78-2 is providing a higher responsibility on the part of the president for both subsections to be connected. Something else is required because there isn't a connector between the two sections.
I disagree.
For the president.
I disagree with you.
Right. I'm wondering if this notice, as is stated here, is actually a notice seeking leave, or if it is a notice simpliciter just saying, I'm unable.
Which one? The first?
The first notice, the 78-1.
Yes, the 78-1.
Is this notice to the clerk, a notice to say, I'm not going to be able to come today? Or is it a notice that should say, I'm not able to come today, I'm seeking the leave of the president to notify or to accept
and that's where
my absence?
I'm saying you have 78-1.
Right.
And then you move to 78-2, which in my mind gives a joint response or requirement or even an obligation on the part of the president. Are they required to be joined? No. One goes to the other. If one is a notice on its own, it's a notice on its own. Then why do you need 2?
Because I think one is referring to the time absence.
That's in
I
2.
think it's connected.
Senator Sinclair, you have something to say, you're mumbling over there.
He's objecting, but
Well,
I use them as the
we
example.
remove some persons in the St. James Municipal Corporation. Oh, the provision, no. You have a responsibility as a member of the Senate to attend meetings. And if you are not able to
Engage back your mic, please. Engage back your mic.
if you are not able to attend, for whatever reason, you will notify the clerk.
Right.
The clerk is keeping a record.
Yes.
So 78 1 speaks to what the members to do. If I'm in any situation, if a person is seeking leave, don't you apply for leave?
Yes.
In any establishment, organization, it's not any different. If I have a duty to be present, and if I miss 5 consecutive meetings in 41 days, then, or if I think I'm going to miss 5 consecutive meetings in 41 days, I have a duty to write to the president and to request of the president, inform him I will be missing, I'm seeking your leave. I'm seeking leave of absence from the Senate.
Correct.
And you can grant me your leave.
Yes.
That is it.
Yes, Mr.
The
President.
responsibility is the members'
Are you
responsibility.
suggesting that is 2 different situations?
Yeah.
In other words, if you're missing 1-1-1-1 meeting, even if it is in 5 consecutive, and you notify the clerk, once it is 5 consecutive, then you require a leave from
All
the
right.
president?
So if you miss 5 consecutive meetings and nothing, no request for leave was sought, and within the 41 days, not from the clerk is keeping a record. The clerk can inform the president, Senator Sinclair has missed 5 consecutive meetings within the 41 days. Did he get your leave? You are no able to say, well, no leave was obtained, and the provision activates. Same way in the council. A council misses 3 consecutive general meetings of the council without permission, without the leave, then they vacate their seat. They have to seek it. They have to apply for it, inform them that I'm unable to attend and I'm seeking the permission of the council to be absent for 3 consecutive meetings. I don't see anything wrong with,
Yeah, and
with
if,
it
and
as
if I may,
as it is
and if I
drafted.
may add perhaps to what the member is saying, to my mind, it's 2 different things. 78.1 speaks to the obligation of the member to advise the clerk and so on, and that speaks to the record keeping. Fine. When we go to 2, it speaks to, in furtherance of the point, the authority, the continuing authority of the president for the duration of the period to give leave for any member who has been absent from sittings of the Senate, well, more than 5 consecutive sittings. And you remember the standing orders do provide for more than 1 sitting of the Senate, but we don't necessarily abide by that. So that's perhaps why that limited period was given of 41 days, even though we in fact only meet once a week. But with that said, it's a continuing power of the president to grant that leave. Now, the standing orders do not speak to a member seeking leave, but it does speak to an authority anytime that the president may grant that leave, anytime during the period. It's not necessarily at the end of the period, it's at any point. And perhaps, just on reading it, the president may grant that leave on his own or not.
So what happens if you don't grant it?
Well, then we'd go to 3 first of all to ensure that following 10 days, the leave still hasn't been granted, and if not, then according to the standing orders, the member would vacate their seat. That's what
The president
does not. Yes, correct. If the president does not grant the leave. Now go on.
Chairman.
1 minute, Senator Fraser Binns.
I think you gave me the go-ahead. I had my... is missing is a right. What to me is missing is the connection. So for example, when I left last week, I wrote to the clerk. I told her I would be unable to attend, and I indicated I was copying the president on it. Now, what I am not happy with is that I think that some clarity should be brought, because it's actually 1 and 2 actually connect, although they are distinct. One is simply giving notice to the clerk, and then you skip from that to talk about written leave from the president without engaging the president at any point in time. And it can be quite, what I think 2 should do is to say where there is extended, where you extended absences, leave, an application should be made to the president for permission, or something like that. I'm not drafting it in my head. And then go on to say what the consequences are if you don't get the written leave of the president. But I think there's a gap in how the standing order is worded. And I don't think if we are having standing orders that addresses it, that we can presume the process. So something needs to say to the person, if you're going to have extended absences, you have to apply it to the president, rather than just notify the clerk.
Even if a situation exists where the member notifies the clerk for 5 successive absence from 5 successive meetings, and then notify the clerk, that notification is not sufficient.
Well, it doesn't really say that. That's the problem I'm having, that it doesn't really say that. I am unable to simply notify the clerk for a period not exceeding 41 days. It doesn't really say that. It says I'm to notify the clerk if I am in any way prevented from, whether it be from illness, whatever. But what I can't understand is how now it jumps to my need to get written leave.
No. Oh, Chairman, I beg you. I beg you, Chair, if it's me.
I haven't been acknowledged.
When it lights up in red.
No,
Is it?
So why?
I'm sorry.
So why I had brought 3 into our attention, is because there is what happens in the absence of the request. Now, that relates to 1, and what Senator Scott Motley is bringing to our attention. What my question is there a fiduciary duty of the clerk to inform the president? Is there a requirement within the operations of the clerk to inform the president? That is what is absent here, where the obligations of the clerk are to inform the president of said requests. Sorry?
It's silent.
It's silent on that point.
Exactly, and that is where the conundrum lies. So if the clerk is obliged to inform the president, that is how 2 and 3 kicks in.
Right, but there's no obligation on the clerk currently.
Exactly.
So to my mind, the only authority in relation to this part lays with the president.
Exactly.
And there's really no, and there's no trigger, you're correct, and there's nothing that says that a member ought to seek leave. I mean, it follows that you would seek leave if you know the standing orders and the president is the one to grant that leave. It doesn't say so.
It doesn't say so.
It does not. I take the point. I take the point. However, it may be that it was the writer's intention that members should be aware of their. I don't know.
So
it is an implied term.
No. You know where?
I'm with you, but it is
Ms. Stewart, go ahead.
Where
please.
I'm making.
Let us.
1 minute. Ms. Stewart, go ahead.
To provide some clarity.
We're now mash up the meeting.
To provide some clarity, let us look at paragraph 3. It says, where a member A fails to obtain due leave of absence and within 10 days after the end of the period aforesaid satisfies the president in writing that such failure or absence was unavoidable, paragraph 2 of this order shall not apply to that member. This paragraph 3 indicates that there should be some application by the member to the president in the event that the member will be absent for 5 consecutive sittings. So what is required here is an amendment to paragraph 2 to outline that there needs to be some form of application, if you want to use that word, or if you're not going to amend paragraph 2, you could renumber it for it to be the new paragraph 3 and include a new paragraph 2 speaking to the application of the member to the Senate where there would be 5 consecutive absence within 5 consecutive sittings. So section 7A or paragraph 7A is completely different from 7.2. 7.1 rather, deals with a situation where you're just unable to make it. You just can't make it, so you have to inform the clerk. The clerk will make a record of that, and if necessary, based on the circumstances, will advise the president. But when it comes to a situation now you're going to be absent for 5 consecutive sittings, there needs to be an amendment to say, make an application for leave. And that is confirmed in how paragraph 3 is structured. So there needs to be an amendment to paragraph 2.
Can I now, Chairman? Okay, so Chairman, I agree, Senator Professor Morris, that there is, in fact, a need to connect. But, Chairman, I think that 2 things. One, I want to hear, and you will forgive me, but I want to hear from Ms. Brandon, because I'm calling Ms. Brandon because I think she's the most senior person in administrative arm here. This is not the first time we've had situations like this. We've had situations like this before, and I want to hear from you what happened in real life when somebody's been absent. If you could just share with us the process that is employed when somebody be absent for 5 consecutive sittings, and then I'll come back with a part 2.
Just to respond to Member Fraser-Binns, I have not seen a situation where a senator has been absent for more than 5 sittings, right? And paragraph 2 is triggered, where the person would have to vacate his seat according to section 41 of the Constitution. However, from my understanding, based on what 78.1 is saying, it's making reference to a sitting. So 78.1 states, any member who is prevented from attending a meeting of the Senate, which is the first sitting. So if it is that the member will be absent for 5 consecutive sittings, then they would have to, the person would have to inform the president and seek the leave of the president. So it is the duty of the clerk to keep a record of the attendance, and it is triggered by 78.1.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I was hoping that Ms. Brandon would share with us what happens in the lower house, and she said she's not aware, and that's fine, because then it sent me to look at the standing orders for the lower house, and 81, it's actually worded differently, because what it says, any member who is prevented from attending a meeting of the House shall acquaint the Speaker as early as possible of his ability to attend such notices to be in writing. And then it goes on at subsection 2 to say, if without the written leave of the Speaker given before the end of the period specified in subparagraph B of this paragraph, and the same wording applies in terms of the member, any member is in any one sitting absent from the House for more than 6 consecutive sittings. So in the lower house, the communication must be given to the Speaker, and the Speaker also has the power to give the leave once the member applies. In the Senate, it is the notification to the clerk, and where you need permission to be absent for 5 consecutive sittings, then the permission must be sought from the president. So, and I'm happy I raised the question. I'm also happy that I looked at the standing order in the lower house, because, oh, and I'm so delighted to sit beside Senator Gale, because it seems to me, Mr. President, that perhaps we need to make a correction, amendment as to who should be notified about, one, the absence, and I agree with Legislative Counsel when she mentioned that there's a need for a connection, an insertion for connection between the application for the leave and what the president does, separate from a notification. So thank you, sir.
So yeah,
Chairman,
go ahead, Senator Gale.
I was making the connection in the first instance. One speaks to a notice that is that now becomes part of a record to the clerk. Right. Then it gives the president an obligation that if without written leave, but there is something that is absent before that, because an application would have to be made to the president, And the president would have had to act on that application, because it then says into, if without the written leave, what do you have to protect you, if you are going to be the substantive president. Because you have an obligation to treat with, because somebody may say later on that you did not provide the written leave. So the individual who is going to be absent has to seek the written leave, and you would have to respond by providing consent. So between one and so it means that we have to fix two.
For proper flow.
For flow. Because when we're making rules, we have to make rules that provide clarity in the scope of permissiveness.
Just to say, and I agree with what Member Gale is saying, but 78.2 places an obligation on a member. However, you may find a situation that if it is that members are not au fait with this provision, it could cause an issue. Yes, it's an implied obligation on a member. Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, so what we're going to do, yes, Senator.
Chairman, for what it's worth, because I trust we will work out the fix so that there's appropriate flow. But what jumps out to me is essentially two scenarios. You have ordinary absence, and then you have absence that is out of the ordinary. Because if you're getting into the realm of 5 successive absences from respective sittings of the Senate, it's essentially out of the ordinary. And that is why such a member, a senator in such a position, would have to seek leave of the president. But I'm not averse to absolute clarity in the provisions, but this entire discussion is throwing up two scenarios in my mind. If the foreign secretary is abroad and misses a Senate sitting, that person apprises the clerk. It's understood, because these things do happen. However, if a member has been diagnosed and unfortunately has to be seeking treatment wherever, for example, and has an extended period of absence, it's understood that that kind of scenario is an out-of-the-ordinary kind of scenario, and that is why this will come into play in terms of having essentially seeking the leave and getting such leave so that you don't run afoul, you don't trespass on the provisions here in terms of missing 5 sittings and whatnot.
I think that we have a job for us to do, ladies, just to clarify that for us. I'm going to have to adjourn. It's 10 minutes past 10. If it is that the Senate... If it is, yes. So, I'm going to adjourn it. But if it is that we finish the Senate quick enough and we can come back, we'll reconvene after the Senate meeting.
accountable. Keeping government accountable is a key responsibility of our elected representatives, and the Parliament provides special tools or mechanisms just for this. As citizens, we need to understand how they work so we can play our part to ensure that the members of Parliament we elect are using the tools and doing their job well. Here are 4 of